Happy Thursday, everybody. My name's Aaron. I'm the co-founder, managing director here at BWG Connect, giant networking knowledge sharing group. Kicked this off 8.5 years ago. I spend the majority of my time talking to brands around, hey, what are the biggest trends you're seeing? What are the pain points? What are you trying to solve for? What kind of content should we put out? And that's primarily through webinars and dinners. If you're at any of the big trade shows, let us know. We're usually doing a dinner outside of those, a networking dinner. Also look for a follow-up email. Would love to have a conversation of what you're looking at for 2026. What are the trends as we set all of our topics for, I guess, Q1 of next year as a whole. Something that, like today with Udayan and the team at NetElixir, I think you said, Udayan, this is the 18th one of
This is our
these.
18th forecast that we have done. Yeah, forecast
Yeah,
plus
it's so
Cyber 5.
crazy. Yeah, just a regular like catch up we do. They're fantastic. It's going to be super exciting. Couple things. We're starting a few minutes after the hour. We're going to end with a few minutes to go in the hour as well, so you can get onto your next meeting without being late. We want this to be as educational and informational as possible. If you have questions along the way, drop them into the Q&A there, and we'll answer them as real time as we can. And other than that, Dan, I'll kind of kick it over to you if you want to jump in with.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Absolutely, Aaron. Thank you.
yeah.
Thanks for having me. And in advance, happy holidays to everyone. This has been a tradition, as Aaron mentioned. This is our 18th one doing this. And when we did the first one, Aaron, actually, there was this gentleman called Mr. Jobs who had just released something called an iPhone. So which was which was very interesting. So if you really look back, 18 years almost exactly tracks to that. 2008 was our first one in all on candidness. So it just things have changed quite a bit since then. So
Just a
I'll
little.
just keep it very specific, a little bit about introduction about the company. I'll talk about the Cyber 5 results and the key growth drivers as well. The growth drivers part are interesting because there are probably about close to 10 or 15 which were in play this time. And I've tried to highlight about the top 4 or 5, which we felt really had the biggest impact this Cyber 5. The Cyber 5 customer behavior, this was an interesting one as well. So there are some trends and insights there as well. And then I'll just try to take my regular stab, the top 5 e-commerce trends for 2026 also. So a little bit of an introduction of the company. We have been around for over 21 years now. And I think many of our customers have joined. So thank you so much for joining. I see many of our UPS partners have joined, and many of the folks who I think we have known for a long time have joined. So thank you very much. Really appreciate your sort of taking time to join this session. We have been around for a fairly long time. I think I've already dated myself significantly. So over 21 years now. We have our own AI marketing platform. This is more of a machine learning powered platform, which is able to really help you conduct those marketing experimentations very quickly. I mean, as AI takes over, I think we have found that the only way to an extent, break the Google and the Meta black boxes is through doing those strategic, smart experiments and so on. We are a premier partner for over 11 years for UPS now. We were actually one of their top first 2 partners. Started with them in 2014. We also happen to be a Google, Microsoft, Meta, Amazon, Pinterest premier partners, and we are also a certified minority business enterprise. And one of the areas that we really take a lot of pride in, and we had recently the Giving Tuesday as well, is our own foundation, which supports young girls from slums in India. And we really help them by sponsoring their education in the 11th and 12th grade of school, 4 years of college, and help them to find a job. And we are seeing very clearly it transforms lives. So so that's just a quick background. We have been very fortunate. So this has been quite a remarkable year for us, because I think firstly, Aaron, we moved from just being another paid search agency to calling ourselves an AI first digital agency. That was itself a big shift. And it was much needed as well, because I think putting the customer right at the center of whatever we do became an essential component when we started off 21 years back. But I think we are really looking at the next phase of evolution, where how can you really help that same customer succeed in this AI first world? So one of the companies we are fortunate to work with is carparts.com. And this is a testimonial from their CMO, Christina, as well. And there are, I think, more than 200 plus success stories and happy stories of customers as well. And because of their love, our average NPS score is actually almost double that of the industry average. So we are very privileged and we take this score and the entire customer relationship extremely seriously at NetElixir. Moving on, this is the foundation that I talked about. I think if anyone is interested to know more about the foundation, I'm happy to chat anytime. We are seeing very clearly that I think there is this completely hidden, almost like a marginalized sector, which lives in slums and villages and uh, which live in abject poverty. And I think it has been our aspiration now for the last 9 years to really help them support specifically the girls student and help them really pursue their high school and college education. And currently we have been able to get 6 of them into jobs. We are currently supporting about 52 girls. But you can find about all of that and more if you scan this QR code. A little bit about me. I, along with my wife, started this company back in 2004. Seems like a different world altogether. We actually were founded just before 3 months prior to Google doing the IPO, or 3 or whatever, 6-7 months before Google went public. And I think these days, I'm pretty sure, I think that really becomes one of those stories that we start with. I'm also very fortunate to be involved very directly in the academic world as well. I am an innovation fellow at Columbia Business School, guest lecturer at Johnson School of Management in Cornell, have been at City University of New York, Baruch, and Indian School of Business as well. Feel free to connect with me. I think always happy to chat about entrepreneurship and the future of AI advertising. I'll start with the results, trends, and some of the key growth drivers as such. And this is purely from Cyber 5. I know these days the Cyber 5 term probably itself is getting a little stretched, or more than a little stretch. I don't even know whether it should be called Cyber 10 or Cyber 12, whatever it is. But we prefer to stick to the Cyber 5 just because it helps us to compare the results. The basis of our presentation is mostly our holiday clients. There is a sample set that we work with. And this is just about 250 million website sessions between just these 5 days. We monitor primarily of 6 verticals. We have tried to also add in a few more verticals as well, like beauty, primarily because they had a huge holiday bias. But I think one of the things that we really focus on is if we do not have at least 7 customers in any particular category, that's not normally, that vertical is essentially not considered as such. We use Elixir Insights and the customer intelligence power of that to really do a lot of analysis as well. So, and as I think Aaron already mentioned and introduced us, really proud to present our 18th annual Cyber 5 results to all of you. So, 8 year-on-year e-commerce growth, Aaron, that's what we saw in Cyber 5. And I must say that completely and totally destroyed my forecast, which was a lot more conservative at 4.2%. And for those of you who probably attended that session with Aaron, my holiday season forecast, again, just to be fair, was about 4.2%. But we had a much stronger Cyber 5 than what I think most of us, if not all of us, had expected for majority of categories. Having said that, there are certain categories which did not do as well. But I think for the majority, I would say probably about 70% of the categories and the businesses that we work with really actually did very well. And it's a fairly sort of a distributed spread. So this is more of a category level trend of orders and AOV. And if you really look at the health and wellness, we are seeing a pretty significant spike there. Fashion apparel, I think, has been a big spike. Jewelry has seen a 7% spike. The other categories have not really done too well in terms of number of orders, but again, since the average order value has been higher. Now, average order value has been higher because of multiple reasons. I'll touch some of this later as well. Of course, there is a tariff impact. I'm pretty sure many of you would be asking that question. I mean, there is some amount of tariff impact, but it's very interesting because the discounts offered this time, this holiday season, Aaron, were extremely aggressive. At least for majority of the customers we work with, they came out literally all guns blazing with very strong discounts. And we were able to see by investing very, very cleverly and in a very prudent manner in terms of running the right promotions, we were able to drive up the overall order volume and the revenue as well. So overall has been pretty strong. I think the tools and hardware, as you can see, is about 11%. The orders, I think, are not as much. I think it's more of an AOV driven growth in most cases. There are exceptions, of course, like jewelry is an exception where there was an order growth, but people average cart size was a little smaller. Home furnishings, again, the AOV growth was there, but overall, the number of orders actually were not as strong. So it's for some reason, I think home furnishings is a segment which has continued to lag. This is actually the second holiday season where it has not really done well. Fashion apparel actually has done extremely well. And I have a separate slide where we saw that number of unit items per shopping cart actually went up quite substantially as well. Health and wellness we are seeing is having a very strong trend, a very, very strong trend. I mean, that has been one of the definitely winners in this entire Cyber 5. The orders went up, the AOV went up, and overall we experienced some exceptional growth in the health and wellness segment. So all of this put together was about 8.3%, but that's again Amazon plus the website part. The growth was fairly well distributed. I think South has continued to be a higher in terms of percentage growth, but I think it's just a deeper penetration, which continues to happen every year. West and Northeast and Midwest have sort of held steady. So overall, I mean, unlike previous years when some of the one region has very clearly eclipsed the growth rate of other regions, the growth was fairly widespread across the country. So that I think was one very interesting observation. And we tried to sort of measure what is the impact of one particular day within Cyber 5 in the overall Cyber 5 numbers. And we sort of break it down by Amazon and direct to consumer. The blue bar that you see is essentially 2025, and the orange bar is 2024 last year, the same Cyber 5 period. So no major shifts. You can say, I mean, Cyber Monday this year was stronger compared to last year. Cyber Monday, definitely. I mean, last year's, if you can see, Cyber Monday's share was about 28% direct to consumer. And Black Friday actually was very comparable with Cyber Monday. But this year, actually, Cyber Monday was by far the number one online shopping day, at least for our customer base. On the Amazon as well, it was a very similar story this year as well. So no massive surprises, I would think, Aaron. I think, but having said that, this is what we call the momentum peak. While all of this shopping is still fairly concentrated, but we saw the promotion start as early as the 18th or the 19th of November, so about 10 days in advance. And a lot of the folks have really engaged in early shopping as well. So the reason I feel, I mean, in Amazon, effectively, some of the customers did not have as much of a strong Cyber Monday as they had expected, primarily because their customers had already completed their purchases for all practical reasons by then.
But let me just a couple of things that come to mind. One, of course, others. If you have questions, drop them in the Q&A, and we'll jump in and tackle those as well. But number one, the distribution here is just interesting as a whole, right? It's not like primarily people are shopping on Amazon on Black Friday and then on some Cyber Monday, but is it something that comes to mind is bigger discounts. You said people coming out with guns a-blazing, right? That people just saw and knew that this was the opportunity for the discounts, right? And so that's why it's up, and it's kind of that shocker, which then I guess the real story is, what do the next 2 weeks look like as
That's exactly what my
okay.
So I sort of covered that part as well, because the margins were definitely would have gotten impacted. I mean, there is no way that with the level of discounts that many of the companies or most of the companies were offering, that the margins could have stayed the same. So I think we will be tracking this very closely. I tried to do the first 2 days, Aaron, but I mean, we have done the tracking till yesterday.
Okay.
Just because 1 or 2 days after Cyber Monday, how does it really look like? So it is still holding strong, but and that itself is very surprising, because we are not expected it to be as strong as it is with all of those economic headwinds. I think the consumer sentiment being an all-time low for the month of November, actually October, and then November prelim results as such. And then, I mean, effectively, I think the overall employment numbers didn't really grow great, and so I think it was we had a very cautiously optimistic approach as we really got into Cyber 5. But I think the Cyber 5 has really pleasantly surprised us all at NetElixir.
Oh, 100%. This is better than the flip side, right? Which is it's all down.
Definitely.
I
Exactly.
think people are pleasantly surprised.
Exactly.
I think the current state of inventory and what people have, the
Yeah.
pre-tariff versus post-tariff inventory, and then just kind of overall, what seemed like people were slowing down in how they were spending money. Maybe they were just backing off to
Yeah.
spend it during the holiday season as a whole. So there was
Possibly.
some
Yeah.
apprehension I know from brands that I talked to around what's going to happen. Am I going to be able to move the current inventory that I have? I'm going to have to try to do some deeper discounts. I'll take a hit
Yeah.
on margin specifically to move the inventory right now so I'm not stuck with it. And then I'll readjust my inventory forecast if appropriate for
Yeah.
2026 as
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
we're pretty much there already, but it's
Exactly.
interesting.
Yeah. So,
Awesome.
so just continuing with the same sort of theme. So this is more of an per hour basis. Again, there are no massive changes, but I think it is important to keep in mind that about 25% of the site sessions, website sessions, as well as the orders which really came on the website, happened between 8 p.m. and 4 a.m. So basically, a lot of search and browse and shop behavior is happening literally after 8 p.m. Well after dinner, and goes on pretty much through the entire night as well. So that was an interesting one. And that has remained pretty consistent last year versus this year. I mean, this year, if only, I mean, if you can see that 20 to 24, which is essentially 8 p.m. to midnight, that number has gone up, percentage has gone up even further in terms of orders. So it's worthwhile to really keep that in mind as you're really sort of planning out your budget distribution, because uh, I don't think that trend will change in any major way in the rest of the holiday season. So people will continue to engage in the search and shop pretty much after 8 p.m. as well. Some of the key growth drivers, and this is where I am sort of probably going to go a little out of my comfort zone. I think the first one is something which is pretty straightforward. I think heavy discounting, and on an average, I think the additional discounts offer were anywhere between 7% to 22%. Extra discounts just during this Black Friday promotions. So it's like heavy discounted by holiday retailers. I think the margins are definitely getting hammered.
Hmm.
Uh, Interestingly, I think giants like Apple offered extremely attractive discounts to get the volume up. BNPL is soaring. I mean, it really exploded this Cyber 5. So that's, I think, one of the things which essentially is, in our opinion, really being one of the key drivers of this growth as well. The next one is a bold statement, and that's what I said. I'm probably going a little bit out of my comfort zone. We are seeing a little bit of a K curve consumer is sort of happening. So it's essentially, it's a unique situation where the affluent literally is spending a lot more, and effective. That's really driving up the AOV for all practical purposes. The volume driving, which was normally happening, let us say the bottom of K, essentially maybe actually sort of there is a bit of a pullback there. So I think there is still enough amount of evidence to believe that I think it's the top of the K, let us say, is really sort of driving a lot of this, the value growth overall. But lastly, as I mentioned, I mean, really hat tip to the consumer. I mean, yes, the consumer is stretched. The K curve is widening. But I mean, you can't really dispute 8.3% year-on-year online sales growth. That's huge. That's massive. And the American shopper really continues to show remarkable resilience, which is just incredible. And we have some some insights on the consumer behavior as well. But yeah, it's just an interesting time, and that's the reason I was mentioning this time was a little different compared to the previous years and so on.
Yeah, really quick, a question comes in around that hourly data. Is that just
That's
Amazon?
only DTC. It's not
Okay.
unfortunately on Amazon. This is only website data. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Others, if you have questions around any of this or other, topics, drop them in the Q&A and we'll get them answered as we go. Awesome.
So this is where I should just sort of jump into the Cyber 5 customer behavior, and I have to. This is more of my homage for Mr. Jobs. I have to talk about the mobile phone, because when we did the first time, this percentage order was 0 from mobile phones, mobile devices, right? And now it has become 61%, at least for our sample set or data set of all the orders for them were from mobile phones. Isn't just that incredible? I mean, in 2008, when we did the first one, or the first NetElixir Cyber 5 webinar, the percentage was 0. And from there, mobile has become a primary device for across categories. I mean, you see every category pretty much mobile becoming a dominant player. I mean, who would have thought that 71% of jewelry purchases, which is a pretty high value purchase, I'm talking about some very premium jewelers included in this data set. Who would have thought that that's really happening over mobile devices as well? It's just that how consumer behaviors are really shifting and changing. It takes a little bit of time, but I think once it shifts, I think it is really just keeps on adding to that and changing as well. The reason I'm sort of mentioning this is for another reason. I think we are, I would say, at a comparable juncture with all the AI and agentic AI and AI agents as well. While this holiday season, that shift may not be very visible or prominent still, but it's almost like we firmly believe that it's almost like a gradually and then suddenly it will happen. So that's the reason I really wanted to point out this mobile phone and the adoption as an indicator, or maybe just a very distant analogy, primarily because when we did the first one, there was this percentage was 0.
You see this then leading, like naturally, like you were saying, to an agentic shopping experience
Yeah.
where people will be within whatever they're using and having it go make the purchase on the back end. I mean, step one is just having people comfortable with buying more via their phone,
Exactly.
desktop. And now they clearly have stated that they are, even like you were saying, to usually what would be a higher consideration purchase. I mean, at an astounding number as I look
Exactly.
at it.
71% of jewelry. I mean, this is like average ticket item, probably for the database that said to be considered was above $500, Aaron. So this is not cheap jewelry.
So you're from then your side, then like from a brand, what I'm reading out of this data is what can we do with it? It is I need to be looking at what does agentic shopping look like for next year. And if
Yeah.
it's not next year, it certainly will be the year after. Certainly will be.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, it would not be, it wouldn't be, I think, too much of a leap of faith for me to mention that by 2030, when we are doing this, I don't know what, 5 more years, right? So 23rd annual forecast and all the Cyber 5, agentic shopping may actually be more than 1/4 of the overall online sales. Right. And I mean, if you really just consider back 2008, another interesting and important one, since we got the question about Amazon and direct to consumer, Amazon Marketplace was barely existent at this time, 2008, right? And so it was 0 again, right? So just think of it, mobile was 0, Marketplace was practically 0. And today, agentic is probably a little above 0, let us say, not exactly 0, so roughly at the same stage. But in 5 years, who knows? Maybe it's about 20 to 25% of the overall online sales. So things are changing very quickly. And it's amazing that in 2008, when we really look at it from there, essentially, I would almost directly say that millennials led this charge and Gen X's followed in, right? So effectively, and then obviously, I mean, the later generation, Gen Z and all became literally a mobile generation or phone generation, right? But if you really look at it, it's been driven in terms of just the buying cloud with the millennials. That's, I think, who drove that. Similarly, we believe that the agentic is being driven already by the Gen Z. And as Gen Z's buying clout increases over time in the next few years, you would see that become mainstream. So that's the only reason I'm really forecasting that by 2030, 20 to 25% of the entire online sales should really come through agent or from agentic shopping, not AI agent influenced. That probably already there is a big influence, but I'm saying that people who complete their purchases within the AI bot. So it's something that I really wanted to call out and give as an analogy as well. This was an interesting one. We are able to get this using our the technology Elixir Insights. So we try to track what are the number of items per shopping cart or order, right? And here we have really taken the exception of adding a couple of other categories like beauty and cosmetics and crafts and hobby as well. So the items per order went up, right? So in the shopping cart, the number of items, so the units were in there, that sort of went up. So what does it mean when the AOV does not go up as much, but the items go up? It's basically the per ticket item has to be sort of coming down, right? So it's very interesting as to how the cart formation really happened in beauty and cosmetics. And we are able to, through Elixir Insights, track the repeat buyer behavior as well. So it was very interesting. So when a new customer comes in, she probably sort of just is checking out whether she wants to engage with the brand, looking at the minimum in terms of the free shipping, and just buying only so much. But once she has really formed this relationship with the brand, the next time she comes in, the number of items automatically go up. Each item value or ticket price may actually be lower, but the number of items volume sort of goes up. Now, there is a big lesson in this one. And the big lesson is, I think there is an opportunity using AI and strong analytics to go down to that level of depth. And my message to all marketers out there is, I think the first message is very basic, right? The very basic message is we still use a metric called AOV, average order value. I don't think anyone is average, right? If I really ask the audience as to how many of you think you are average, I don't think we'll have any show of hands, right? So there is no average, right? So let us just, first of all, just break that mentality. The second part is, I think the attribution component, I think, is going to be critical, because you really need to understand as to what are the different measures which are attributing to this. But still, I understand with a big margin focus and the ROI focus, most of the retailers are still focused on the last click conversions. But that probably will need to change in the next few years, hopefully sooner. The third one is more important. I think it's important for us to understand every purchase moment and every shopping moment, and really try to understand as to how does it really fit into our overall business model and equation. Because every moment is an opportunity for you to engage the customer and hopefully eventually get the customer to really trust you and form a relationship and buy from you as well. So you would see a lot of in-moment marketing. And that is one of the trends we saw this time. We actually sort of used it ourselves, Saran, this time. And we were fortunate because we had this technology, Elixir Insights. I mean, we were able to drive some significant growth. Did I just put it that way, simply? Just by getting into in-moment marketing. So it's basically the first buyer gets a separate message. There is a separate overall merchandise that they are selling them. Second time, the same buyer comes in a different type, because you know as to what product assortment have they bought and what is that they are likely to buy. So you would see a lot of predictive analytics and machine learning, AI innovation, which sort of happens in that area, trying to help you capture the in-moment purchase occasions as well. So that's what I really wanted to call out. That has been very successful a strategy for us this year. Very, very successful strategy. This one is a big slide. I mean, it's a big slide, and I'm sort of making some comments which may well beyond my area of competence. I just very candidly. But I think as I think about this, what happened, right? I mean, obviously, we are all celebrating this phenomenal Cyber 5, and there is definitely a wave of joy, as I was sharing with another analyst group, Suskana. But I think what is happening, some of those trends are important to keep in mind. The first is we are seeing deal hunting as a strategy. Very different from just browsing and casually sort of doing it. You're not really consciously hunting for deals. But this time we saw that there was a set of consumers, and again, I would want to put many of the Gen Z in that segment. They came in hyper prepared. AI search agents and chatbots had really helped these shoppers compare prices, validate quality, and track discounts. And they knew what they wanted to buy. They had a budget. They knew what are the areas, what are the websites or what are the places that they want to buy from. So they exactly knew. It was a very hyper-informed consumer who was no longer just sort of just browsing, because the strategy was created well in advance. So it just discount hunting or deal hunting as a strategy is something which we are seeing happen. Now, there are pluses and minuses, right? Understandably. Effectively, if it becomes a strategy, understandably, you are really dealing with a fixed budget. I mean, most of the folks who are sort of coming up with a strategy, it's almost like a budget. I have a budget and I really need to stick to that budget and whatever I can really get. I know the brands. So how much can you really, as a brand, influence right at that time is a big question mark. So that's something which I'll sort of get to again, which we are seeing as a trend. that brand building and building those consumer relationships needs to be an always on thing rather than just dealing on this thing, and which is probably a good thing in the long run. But I think looking at deal hunting as a strategy is something that we saw really emerge this time. The second one was fashion, beauty, wellness, health and wellness saw a volume spike. But again, I'm probably being a little too cautious out here, Aaron. But beware of the returns in Jan, specifically in apparel and beauty. And I'll give you an example, and this is actual numbers. Last year, when I did this, I said the same thing. We saw in our data set overall, the return percentage spiked to as high as 22% in the month of January, specifically when it came to these two segments, the beauty and health, beauty and fashion. So those are the parts where I would sort of request everyone to be very careful, because I mean, you can really get that volume sale, but getting the right type of customer becomes, I would think, a million times more important. I mean, just don't go to sell to every customer that you think of, primarily because you are likely to be sort of hit with a lot of returns. The third one is where I'm definitely going out of my comfort zone. I think we are seeing something very unique, and I've not really spoken to any psychologist about it and all that stuff. I think there is a very clear sentiment: I will still spread joy. I call it, let us say, an emotional spending. Despite all of the economic unevenness, I think even the consumers who sort of faced layoffs or financial strain leaned into gifting as an act of emotional resilience and identity affirmation. So those are the things which was very interesting, that I will be happy and I will spread happiness. So buying gifts, to an extent, we felt this time became a way to reclaim control. I was talking to my friends at eMarketer. I mean, literally one day before Cyber 5, they had tried to sort of go a little more conservative with their holiday forecast, because the demand numbers and the consumer sentiment study of Umesh, everything was pointing towards a pretty gloom and doom holiday season. What we saw was exactly opposite to that, which is amazing, right? But I think one of the big factors which should not be discounted is this: buying gifts became a way to reclaim control, just hold on to normalcy and spark joy in those uncertain times. So became a big thing. Early birds won. Significant front loading of purchases really happened. So more consumers bought before the cyber weekend, and Cyber 5 became more of a momentum peak rather than, I mean, you are just sort of doing all of this stuff. So I think the spur of the moment, I think sales were, or purchases were, a lot less. It was a lot more planned shopping, a lot more, let us say, deal hunting, strategizing. And yeah, I think it was a very different American consumer that we saw this time. Very different from what I have seen. So let me pause here. It's a big slide. It's a dense slide. But any questions, any thoughts? Happy to.
Yeah, if anybody has any questions here, drop in the Q&A and we'll get to them. I think that first one you're talking about, it's more of a savvy shopper. It's a new digital age savvy shopper. I'd almost put, to be totally corny, like Sav AI shopper, right? That you're at a point now where you can put in what your budget is, what you're looking for, the people you're looking to buy for, and to say, help me figure this out. And even if it's not on the back end, going and figuring it out,
Yeah.
right? It's not actually going and making the purchase, I should say. If
Yeah.
it's just giving you the comparison and what it is within your budget, right? It does a couple things, right? It shaves down time that you spend doing it. It sometimes might actually get you to buy more if it's just a little bit and it's making recommendations, because just how I use it, it usually makes other recommendations. But I think it just drives the importance of having a website that is, I would say, the new, AEO, GEO, SEO as a whole, that has to be able to be scraped and it has to be able to feed, because if the agentic doesn't matter if you're not showing up in the recommendation, right? At the end of the day.
Yeah.
And so with the slide that you showed, the increase in mobile, the savviness of the shopper, the use of AI, I think by this time next year, or I would probably a few weeks before this time next year, it will be of utmost importance to have your website at the right point for it to be picked up by these LLMs.
Yeah, it's
Or
almost
you?
like seems that, I mean, earlier you had to you go into SEO, right? You're trying to optimizing so that humans can find your website.
Mhm.
Now you really not only have to do that, but you have to also ensure that the bots can find your website or the agents can find your website. So it's just a very different world altogether. And the way that agents find your website is very different from how we humans emotionally engage with websites as well. Right? It's a process for us. So that's why I think the browsing part, I think, is very different from just deliberate. I know exactly this is my budget, this is what I'll buy, these are the websites, and done. It's just almost like quick, get it done, and so on. We're also seeing a trend where a lot of the consumers are actually delegating it eventually to AI assistants, right? So they take care of all of the stuff for you. And I think that would be a massive trend that we'll sort of see increase as well. Because, I mean, there are a lot of folks who may not really enjoy shopping as much. And for them, it's just that, I mean, direct sort of have very clear specifications to the AI agents and they just go out and do that. So I think there's optimizing for the agent. What I mean, you can call it the AEO or agentic optimization or AIO, whatever. I mean, GEO, generative engine optimization. I think it's still an evolving space, but I think we will see a lot of activity there as well. So interesting world for sure, for sure. So with that, I come to the last part of my segment. I hope I'm tracking okay on time. Yeah.
Yeah,
I think the
perfect.
top 5 e-commerce trends, again, is really difficult because there are just so much which has happened. And we have to constantly keep in mind as to what we just saw. Maybe an indicator, because holiday seasons, normally Cyber 5, I think, is a great indicator of consumer behavior shifts. Uh, in terms of as to what can we expect next year. So based on that, these are the 5 trends that I was able to sort of come up with. I already have alluded to this earlier. The Cyber 5 really becomes a full season momentum game. I mean, even though you really have that almost like a performance peak, let us say during Cyber 5, it has really become an entire season now. So it is not just Black Friday and Cyber Monday. So I think the brands that really win are the ones that build that momentum early. So year-long brand investment becomes important. Smarter promotions become important. Thoughtful inventory allocation and all of these things. Real-time optimization. So it's just that earlier we used to call about is to building Black Friday campaigns. That itself as a concept, I think, is no longer relevant in this world as such, right? So that's where, primarily because specifically on the agents actually will be recording everything ongoing, always on, right? So you can't really suddenly come up with on pop up during the Black Friday weekend and say that I'm doing this, and so on, and expect to uh, get the agents interested in considering you. And so that's where I think the brand building is going to be a key component, and that has to really happen year long. So that's a big part of the story. The second part, I think, is this is what I already mentioned. Gen Z's buying power grows. The agentic commerce ecosystem, I believe, is poised to take off now. I mean, it's really the first truly AI native generation is Gen Z. They trust the algorithms, they rely on agents. In fact, there was this very interesting and rather scary study. I thought that there is a lot of emotional dependence which is happening on chatbots as well, of a lot of the Gen Z folks as well. So it's just that, and they sort of prefer zero friction decision journeys, so much quicker and easier journeys, and so on. So as their spending power grows, those behaviors will fundamentally reshape e-commerce. And that's essentially the reason why I was saying that maybe about 20-25% of all the e-commerce by 2030 essentially happens through agents, right? So it's almost like say that AI agents become companions and those becomes the system and you can really complete everything and so on. But I'm fairly convinced that Gen Z will lead the charge in this agentic commerce adoption very clearly. First party data always has been an important asset. Interesting and unfortunately, per Gartner, only about 12 to 15% of the businesses really utilize first party data. It is our firm belief, and we are seeing some trends, even companies sort of working with us, and the interest that our tool, that AI machine learning tool, Elixir Insights, is seeing from retailers. Actually, Christina is a great proof and an evangelist for that. Uh, essentially harnessing this power of first-party data with greater precision. Because you already have this is your data, because that is an important component, and that's where I think that innovative use of AI, which goes beyond just generative AI, probably would be more of an predictive AI, which I think I'm talking about. I think there is a massive play there, and I'm just very directly saying we are seeing a massive surge in interest in Elixir Insights. Aaron knows about it. I've been talking about it for 2 years now, and I'm amazed as to the amount of interest we have seen in this entire quarter now, last couple of months. So I think everyone has come to us to, we have this first party data, how can we really tap into this? So that's, I think, a big one. AI becomes the new operating system for growth. Again, pardon me, I'm just, a lot is focused on AI because when you are really looking about such a massive change, it's almost like a ecosystem change. It's really shifting from just isolated experiments to underlying operating system. It's not really another tool. I think businesses have to treat it as an infrastructure of competitive advantage. The founder of Anthropic, Dario Amodei, had written this huge, long article as to, in his opinion, AI just is, right? It's almost like they exist. It's almost like in the world, AI exists, you exist. And essentially, how you really interact or engage with AI is entirely up to you. We are seeing that happen. I mean, in fact, in my last month or last time when I spoke along with Aaron, essentially, I talked about the entire topic of agentic commerce and all that stuff. We are seeing it happen very clearly. And I firmly believe that 2026 is that year where retailers will need to integrate AI across pricing, merchandising, the 4Ps, marketing mix, media, supply chain, everywhere, customer experience. And there are very clear outperformance. One of the things that I've not really talked about much, it was very visible in the Cyber 5. I talked about the winners, Aaron. I talked about as to who did how well and all the stuff. But the fact is, for every category, while there were some folks who did extremely well, there were a few which did terribly, absolutely. So I think we are seeing AI as a very clear separator, which has really become extremely powerful force. And anyone who still is considering AI is another tool, will sort of figure it out, I think is making a mistake. And my request to everyone would be jump on the utilizing this AI to really transform your systems, because that becomes your competitive advantage. It almost like becomes an infrastructure of competitive advantage for your business.
Do you have
Yeah, sorry.
do you have companies you're working with just asking you to come in and explain like what does that mean and what does it look like?
Yeah.
Because I know at the top you have use AI, use AI, use AI. People go
Yeah.
out, they grab AI, they start to plug it in. They have the CIO or CTO or CSO say stop plugging things into the network
Right.
because it's a security risk.
Yeah.
Um, and so it's kind of this conundrum around we know it's there. We don't necessarily know what all the options are. We don't necessarily know how to use it or how it's implemented. We just need like a guide. And
Exactly.
um,
So
that's
this is something that I've heard very repeatedly. In fact, one of the initiatives that we are starting with you, Aaron, and that's actually on the next slide, that I'll present is inspired by that as well. There are a lot of CEOs, CFOs, CTOs, CMOs who have exactly said the same thing. So we are actually launching an initiative called AI Sparks, which I'll talk about. It just sort of dumps down and just comes up with one tangible, actionable bite. We also are launching something called an AI readiness toolkit in the month of January. So that's basically our New Year gift to all the businesses. And at the roundtable, breakfast roundtable that Aaron is talking about, I mean, all the participating members will get a complimentary toolkit essentially, which really helps them to measure their AI readiness. Because you all talk about AI, but what are the steps? What are the distinct steps? Step 1, 2. There are close to about 12 steps in getting to where it needs to be. And it is almost like different stages. I mean, I would say the step 1 to 4 is phase 1. You're just starting off, and there is a different set of tools. There is a different set of processes that you really need to work with. The workflows have to be really looked at in a different manner. Then there is a phase 2 where you just sort of are going to the next level in terms of your AI, let us say, readiness, and so on. But we'll talk a lot more about this during the breakfast roundtable in New York next month, Aaron.
awesome. I'm sure
The
to packed house. That's what I'm sure of, because that's one of the biggest requests that we're getting right now. We've got
okay,
requests obviously for TikTok showing up in,
sure.
LLMs, but it's really a lot of it is driven by this AI piece.
Mhm.
Give us. We understand step one, do the research. We now want step 2 through 10. Just help us
Exactly.
out, guide us. So awesome.
Exactly. Yep. My fifth and the final one is channel fragmentation really will accelerate. That's what our thing is. And you'll see this happen next in 2026. And probably, I think it would be still visible. And some of the areas that I'm focusing on is social commerce. I think retail media overall is going through a lot of changes as well. I mean, this time we saw Rufus have a pretty significant impact in terms of all the buying decisions within the Amazon ecosystem. We saw the Sparky in Walmart's environment really playing an important role. And I think that would become pretty much a norm for all the retail media networks as well. And the information that you are getting will really help you into a very different level of hyper personalization as well. So think of almost like, again, making those moments count. That's what I think we are talking about. I think those micro moments, which are extremely context rich, and how can you really how can the brands win at that moment, the customer that they're really looking for, and so on. In fact, that is something that is there in our AI Spark. So this is what I sort of get back to Elixir Insights as the technology, but through this is the part, Aaron, that we are very excited to launch today for all the BWG attendees. It's just, I mean, it's almost like cutting through the AI hype with one clear insight each week. And it's just one snackable bite of insight, right? And you can really subscribe to this. It just gets delivered, and it's a very small bite. It's netelixir.com/learn/AI Sparks. And each week we are sharing something which is very tangible, which is very AI powered and AI driven. And we are also giving a recommendation as to what to do about it. Eventually, we are trying to integrate the entire notebook LM from Google as well, and really add an audio file to this as well, so that there can be a conversation or a discussion around it. Now, these are the things our aspiration is, Aaron, would be all the different, let us say, post-it notes essentially on the CMO's dashboard. And the goal of, very simply, uh, any AI marketing transformation would be working backwards, starting with the goal or the outcome, and then really identifying the workflows. And hopefully, these AI sparks would really be the different points in that curve or that workflow, whatever you sort of call it. So that's essentially what it is. Now, these are all mostly questions rather than immediate answers and so on. But at least our goal is to spark a thought process, spark a question, spark an idea, so that you're able to think through it a lot more clearly. We are, I must say, getting a lot of information from our technology that I talked about, Elixir Insights. And I mean, this is something we will be more than happy to sort of talk to you regarding this. But I think at this point in time, I mean, I was telling my team member, I don't think we need to even promote or position or sell this, because I mean, the way that it has been able to harness the first party data, this Cyber 5 for our clients, I mean, we have been able to outperform the market by a wide margin. So I think itself is quite valuable as such. So that's what I had. I'll probably leave it at this, and the final slide that I have. Again, this is an initiative that we are very passionate about, because as AI is getting embedded in our lives, the professional life, uh, just if you really think holistically, one of the areas which I remain concerned about, Aaron, is it should not create uh, a more polarized world, essentially, right, between haves and have-nots. And unfortunately, AI is such an exponential infrastructural technology, potentially can do that. So that's the reason I really wanted to keep us all grounded by thinking of the other folks who are not really as fortunate to be a part of all of these discussions, all of these AI wave. And that's where I think Udan has really become a big leveler for us, really keeps us our feet firmly planted on the ground as well.
Yeah.
So that's, I think, what my thought is. I really wish everyone a very happy holiday season, and happy to answer any questions. I know I finished early, but just wanted to keep it
Oh no, we're almost right on time, but if anybody does have any questions, drop them in the Q&A there and we will get them answered. I mean, on that side, like if anybody, um, I look for a follow-up email, more than happy to connect you with Udayan and the team at NetElixir, 100% worth that conversation. They're doing some amazing things. If you have other things that you're looking for, topics, look over for a follow-up email from me. If there's anything out there in the digital space, you want to chat on, more than happy to set aside some time to do it. Would love to learn what you're trying to understand for next year. I open up my network to everybody that I meet with. More than happy to make any connections that might be out there. Again, if you're going to be in the New York area during NRF, you want to join the breakfast, let us know. It's going to be an awesome time. But Ann says here would enjoy a copy of this deck to share with the executive team. Yeah, for sure.
Happy to do that. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. So look for a follow-up email from us. We're going to connect you to the team at NetElixir. I'd love to meet with you as well. But other than that, everybody, yeah, happy holidays. And we'll continue to do a few more of these webinars before the end of the year. But if we don't connect before then, everybody take care, stay safe, and look forward to having you at a future event. Thanks, everybody. Alrighty. Thanks, Dan. You're awesome. We'll see you. Bye-bye.